Hi there, I'm Jim Bradley. I'm the author of a blog called Under the Castor Oil Tree. I'm going to share some of this week's postings with you. I warn you that they are sometimes quite political, and if you are not good with that, you probably shouldn't listen to them. But all the opinions here are mine and mine alone. This was from Monday, September the 7th. It's called It's Just Getting Worse. When the Atlantic magazine published an article that the president passed up a tour of a cemetery in France to Americans who died there in World War II, it was quickly confirmed by other news sources, including a Fox News reporter. The Atlantic article quoted 4 confidential sources that were in the room when the president canceled the trip because it was raining and his hair would get messed up. He also reportedly said those dead soldiers were suckers and losers because they had died. Never mind that they were protecting the country the president vowed to make great again and that failed himself. But it's now come out that instead of the cemetery, the president went to the American ambassador to France's residence and removed art objects to take back to the White House. Even the administration has not refuted these charges. To make it worse, Francis Brennan, Director of Strategic Response, whatever that is for the president's campaign, tweeted a video of Joe Biden actually visiting a cemetery and the graves of his son, Beau, brain cancer in 2018, and his first wife, Nelia, and daughter, Naomi, who died in 1972 in a car accident. The reporter outside the cemetery called, "Come speak with us." Joe just waved but continued to visit the graves. Brennan wrote over the video, "Joe just keeps meandering about." People exploded on Twitter, calling Brennan everything he deserved to be called, and more. One man visiting the graves of American heroes, not visiting the graves of American heroes who were in his mind losers, only to kidnap art objects. One man visiting graves of 3 people he loved with all his heart and not wanting to be distracted by reporters. Which man would you respect and vote for? By the way, while Biden was going to church and visiting graves, the president was golfing. Enough said. The second is Tuesday, September 6th, and it's called Nothing Political Today. I'm not going to be political today. I just want to talk about walking and waiting. Well, I'm waiting for the election. Cut that out, Jim. Every other Tuesday, I go to Waterbury Hospital to get 2 shots of Xolair. I've probably mentioned it before, since it has kept me asthma-free for over 4 years. When I go to the hospital, I park in the valet spots. The valets used to park my cars before the pandemic, but I park it now in one of those spots. There's always one of the valets there just to watch the upper parking lot. I still tip them, though they don't park my car these days. Then I go in, and after an attendant takes my temperature, I go to registration to get a wristband and paperwork. Usually it takes tops 10 minutes. Today it took over an hour. When I finally got to outpatient therapies for my shots, the nurse told me that the holdup in registration was because most people, even those who maybe should be admitted to the hospital, are being treated as outpatients. You have to be half dead to get admitted these days because of COVID. That's what she said. That's jarring. I actually got registered sooner than I would have because I asked the woman at the desk to call outpatient therapies and tell them why I was so late. She did, but told me to wait and register me there instead of having to wait for one of the four registrars. In that hour of waiting, I saw a lot of anger. People don't like to wait, especially in a hospital. Complaints, accusations, demands abounded. The staff handled it all with grace and calm. I always have a book, no matter where I'm going. Today I'm reading James Patterson's Double Cross. So waiting for me is simply reading time. I noticed that cell phones calm waiting crowds as well, but in a hospital, those are limited. Often waiting can make us anxious and angry, but it can teach us something as well. Lord, teach me patience so that I can wait upon your will. This was from Wednesday. It's called Holy Hell, What's Going On? Rod Woodward's book has been gotten before publication by news outlets. It is damning to the president. Woodward has tapes of his conversations with the president. Back in February, the president told Woodward that the coronavirus was 5 times more deadly than extreme flu. But he was playing it down and playing down the danger so Americans wouldn't feel terror. Terror was what was needed. If we are terrified, we would have done what other countries did and shut down and prevented many of the 200,000 deaths. Truth was what we needed. Not even if it caused terror. Terror was appropriate. It would have saved lives, as many nations did. And we could safely be reopening society instead of universities trying to reopen and failing. We would have prevented the motorcycle rally that spread the virus to many states. Terror in the face of terrible reality is an appropriate reaction, and it would have saved sickness and lives. But we, the US, have had the most cases and most deaths of any nation because the president downplayed the crisis. Lord help us. And by the way, why would the president broadcast his lies to a journalist who helped bring down a previous president? How would a genius have done that? The virus continues to grow in this country. What can stop it? A new president, that's what. Vote and vote early. Stop the madness. This is from Friday. Oh, I got one more here. Yeah. This was from Wednesday. It's called Trash. Remember what Mark Twain said. It isn't what you don't know that will cause you trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. Our trash is collected on Wednesday every week. I know that for sure. But Labor Day came in, and what I knew for sure gave me trouble. Mine was the only trash can out today. Tomorrow they will come. What I know for sure just ain't so. And this is from Thursday. It's called Insects. How tiny some of them are. I know whales and elephants and rhinos are much larger than we humans, but not to the degree that we are to most insects. I saw a moth outside a few minutes ago that was as small as the white on my thumb. I make a point not to kill insects, except flies. On the deck the other day, when I was on the deck reading, a tiny bug, no bigger than my pencil dot, was on my book. I blew it off, but realized it was on the arm of my Adirondack chair. And when I put my book down, I killed it. I felt awful. I didn't intend to do that. Tiny things need to be protected and honored, except flies. I broke my vow to leave them home. And who knows how many ants I had to kill just walking to my car. We must share the planet with tiny creatures. This next one is a sermon that I gave on 9/11 in 1916 at St. Andrews, Norfolk. Remember, it was now 4 years ago. 15 years ago today, I was brushing my teeth listening to Imus in the morning on my clock radio. I know, I'm not an Imus kind of guy. I'm a public radio kind of guy. But he was from time to time dreadfully amusing. Accent on dreadful. Imus said something about a plane flying into the World Trade Center. So I went to our TV room upstairs and turned it on. Vern had left early for a dental appointment. So I was alone when the second plane hit the second tower. I had my toothbrush in my mouth and couldn't comprehend what was happening. Suddenly I heard Vern's pickup trucks skid into the driveway outside in a way I'd never heard before. I listened to her tear open the front door and run up the steps calling my name as I watched, stunned and numb, as two skyscrapers burned. Vern ran into the TV room and said, horrified and breathless, the kids. Suddenly it occurred to me that both our children lived in Brooklyn, just across the river from the World Trade Center. And I should be worried and terrified, not stunned and numb. It took a couple of hours to reach both Josh and Mimi. Mimi came up out of a subway near 890 Broadway and saw smoke in the sky. It was her first day at work for the American Ballet Theater. We would talk with her as she walked back to Brooklyn. Josh was a law student living with a classmate who is now our daughter-in-law and mother of 3 of our granddaughters. He could see the Twin Towers from the street where they lived. Kathy Chin, excuse me, his love, had taken a subway to Manhattan just half an hour before. He was frantic. He couldn't call her on his cell phone. Her train would have stopped at the World Trade Center exit. Josh stayed outside most of the day. Kathy eventually got in touch as she walked across the Brooklyn Bridge, and Josh called us. Mimi and Tim, her boyfriend and now husband and parents of our 4th granddaughter, found each other walking home over the Williamsburg Bridge. They were all safe, praise God, but thousands weren't. I went to St. John's Waterbury because I expected people might need to talk to someone about all this that was happening. Harriet and Sue, our office folks, and I were watching the news on Harriet's computer. Still total confusion and terror. We watched the buildings fall. My assistant at the time wasn't watching with us. She was busy doing busy work and calling people about other things. I asked if she would come and watch with us. She told me this, it's just the chickens coming home to roost. I let out a gasp and said, you can't say that right now. Maybe years from now you can connect what our nation has done to this. But for now, not for years. Thousands are dead and dying. You just can't say that. She ignored me and left a few minutes later. Our friendship and working relationship were over that awful day. She left St. John's a few months later. But losing a friend and a colleague is nothing at all compared to the sons, daughters, wives, husbands, lovers, fathers, mothers, sisters, brother lost that awful day. Nothing at all. to that pain? Nothing at all. The pain of 9/11 is beyond calculation. It continues still 15 years later, and it will never be healed. It may be moved beyond, but never healed. Never, not ever. But we must not forget this: the lost sheep, the lost coin in today's gospel. We must not lose them. A great deal of irrational hatred was spawned by 9/11. Hatred of good people, good Muslims, good Americans. In 2001, there was a mosque that met in the parish house of St. John's in Waterbury. We had shared much with them. We knew them well. We stood by them. They were the lost sheep, isolated by the hatred around them. They were the lost coin, branded because some claiming to be of their faith had created terror. This is what I believe, and this is just me talking. This painful anniversary calls upon you and me to do. We must love, not hate. We must embrace the stranger, not reject them. We must know the value of the lost in our midst. We must never let pain turn to hate, fear turn to anger. All Americans were attacked that day, not just some of us. That is how we give honor to those who died, by refusing to be divided and set against each other. We must seek out and save those who are lost because of irrational hatred. We must sweep the floor of those who would polarize and divide us. We must remember that we all arrived on these shores, lost and rejected. And we must celebrate how diverse we are as a people, rationally, racially, ethnically, culturally, and spiritually. To truly move on from that awful day 15 years ago, we must embrace the diversity that truly makes us strong, that truly makes us one. To do that, less than that, is to dishonor those who died that tragic day. And finally, an autumn day. This was Saturday, September 12th. It was crisp and cool all day. Autumn in New England is wondrous. Soon the leaves will be falling and cool nights will prevail. I love the autumn. Darkness comes sooner every day, and missing the light is one of the precious things about autumn. Air conditioners will be off and out soon. Long sleeves will be the rule. I wore jeans today instead of shorts for the first time in months. We didn't get to go on vacation at Oak Island, North Carolina. We would have left today to fly to Myrtle Beach and drive north. I missed that. Tim and Mimi and Eleanor would have been with us, and Jack and Sherry and John, our friends. It would have been great, but not in this pandemic, not at all. I don't like winter, and autumn means it is coming. But for a few months, I'll relish the chill and the vanishing light and pray for spring. Always pray for spring. I'm Jim Bradley. Those were some posts from my blog, Under the Castor Oil Tree. I thank you for listening, and I hope to see you again soon. All content in these posts are my opinions and mine only. Be well and stay well.